What if everything you knew about humanity's place in the galaxy was a lie? What if the reason Earth seems so isolated, so primitive, so ignored by the advanced civilizations spanning the stars wasn't because we're young or unworthy, but because someone deliberately erased us from galactic history? What if humanity once stood among the greatest powers in the galaxy, our technology rivaling the ancients, our warriors legendary across 1,000 worlds, until the day we simply vanished from every record, every memory, every trace of our existence carefully scrubbed clean? What if the galaxy's greatest secret isn't what happened to the mysterious, lost empire that once ruled half the known systems, but the terrifying truth that the lost empire was us? And what if, after 10,000 years of hiding in the shadows of space, humanity is about to remember who we really are? The galaxy thought it had buried humanity's true history deep enough that it would never surface again. They were wrong. Some secrets are too powerful to stay hidden forever, and some species are too stubborn to stay erased. Welcome to the story they never wanted you to know. The story of humanity's first empire, its fall, and the day we stopped pretending to be primitive newcomers and reminded the galaxy exactly why they feared us enough to erase us in the first place. This is the secret history the galaxy never saw coming. The archaeological dig on Kepler 442b was supposed to be routine. Dr. Elena Vasquez had spent 3 years cataloging the ruins of what the Galactic Archaeological Council believed to be another dead civilization, one of thousands that had risen and fallen in this sector over the past 50 millennia. The planet's designation in the official records was simple: Pre-Contact Civilization Site 7432. Technological level: Basic Industrial. Elena wiped the sweat from her brow as she carefully brushed dust from the metallic surface she'd been uncovering for the past 6 hours. The morning sun of Kepler 442b cast long shadows across the excavation site, and the air hummed with the quiet efficiency of her team's work. 3 graduate students from the University of New Geneva worked alongside her, their tools making soft scraping sounds against the ancient ruins. Dr. Vasquez called Marcus Chun, one of her most promising students. "You need to see this." Elena set down her brush and walked over to where Marcus was kneeling beside what appeared to be a stone tablet. But as she got closer, she realized it wasn't stone at all. The surface had the unmistakable sheen of quantum-locked memory crystal, a technology so advanced that only 5 species in the current galaxy possessed it. "That's impossible," Elena whispered, dropping to her knees beside the artifact. The initial scans showed this civilization barely had steelworking capabilities. Marcus ran his scanner over the crystal's surface. "The material composition is definitely quantum-locked memory crystal, but the design patterns are unlike anything in the galactic database. And, Dr. Vasquez, look at this energy signature reading." Elena studied the scanner display, her heart beginning to race. The energy patterns were not only active but incredibly sophisticated. They pulsed with a rhythmic complexity that reminded her of the legendary artifacts found on ancient One Worlds, the mysterious precursor civilization that had supposedly vanished millions of years ago. "Run a deep scan," Elena ordered, "and send the readings directly to my private server, not the Council's database." Something about this discovery felt wrong. In her 15 years as a xenoarchaeologist, Elena had developed a sixth sense about her finds. The Galactic Archaeological Council's classification of this site had been rushed, almost dismissive. Now she was beginning to understand why. As the deep scan completed, Elena's breath caught in her throat. The quantum crystal wasn't just active, it was responding to their presence. Symbols began appearing on its surface, shifting and rearranging themselves in patterns that seemed almost alive. "Dr. Vasquez," whispered Sarah Kim, another graduate student working nearby. "My excavation just hit something big. Really big." Elena hurried over to Sarah's dig site and felt the world tilt beneath her feet. What Sarah had uncovered was clearly the edge of a massive structure, its hull composed of the same quantum-locked material as the crystal. But this wasn't just any structure. The design elements were familiar in a way that made Elena's skin crawl. The angular lines, the efficiency of form, the subtle but unmistakable aesthetic choices, they were human. Not human-like or human-inspired, but Genuinely, impossibly human. This is a human ship, Elena said quietly, her voice barely audible over the wind. Marcus looked up from his readings. That's impossible, Dr. Vasquez. Humans have only been spacefaring for 300 years. This site is at least 10,000 years old, according to our dating. Elena stared at the hull, her mind racing. She'd studied human engineering extensively during her doctoral work on the rapid advancement of Earth's technology. There was no mistaking the distinctive design philosophy that had emerged from humanity's short, but remarkable journey to the stars. Yet here it was, buried beneath 10 millennia of soil and sediment. Run a complete structural scan, she ordered. And I want absolute discretion about this. No reports to the council until we understand what we're dealing with. As her team worked, Elena's communicator buzzed with an incoming message from her supervisor at the Archaeological Council. The timing felt ominous. Dr. Vasquez, this is Director Kaler 9. We've received some concerning readings from your excavation site. By order of the council, you are to cease all excavation immediately and prepare for site containment protocols. Elena's blood turned cold. Site containment was only used when archaeological discoveries posed a threat to galactic security. But who could have been monitoring their scans? She'd specifically routed their findings through private channels. Director, with respect, we've only just begun our work here. The artifacts we're uncovering appear to be significantly more advanced than the initial survey suggested. There was a long pause before Kaler 9 responded. Dr. Vasquez, you will cease excavation immediately. A council enforcement team is en route to your location. You have 2 hours to prepare all materials for transfer to council custody. The communication ended abruptly, leaving Elena staring at her device. In her entire career, she'd never seen the council move with such swift decisiveness. Something about their discovery had triggered protocols she didn't even know existed. Dr. Vasquez, Marcus called out, his voice tight with excitement. The quantum crystal just activated. It's projecting something. Elena rushed back to the crystal as a three-dimensional holographic display materialized above its surface. The hologram showed what appeared to be a star map, but not of any region Elena recognized. The configuration of stars, the trading routes marked in glowing lines, the positions of inhabited worlds, none of it matched current galactic charts. But what made Elena's heart stop were the symbols marking the major civilizations on the map. She recognized the Antari Empire's distinctive flowing script, the geometric patterns of the Vel Consortium, the crystalline markers of the Zorati Federation. But at the center of the map, controlling what appeared to be the largest territory, was a symbol she knew all too well, the distinctive triple-ring design of Earth's United Nations. That's impossible, Sarah whispered. Humans weren't even spacefaring when this map was created. Elena studied the hologram more carefully. According to the dating algorithms running alongside the display, this map was over 10,000 years old. Yet it showed humanity as one of the galaxy's dominant powers, their territory spanning hundreds of systems. The sound of approaching spacecraft interrupted her thoughts. Elena looked up to see 3 council enforcement ships descending toward their excavation site, their sleek forms cutting through the morning sky like silver daggers. Everyone pack up the most important readings, Elena ordered quietly. And, Marcus, copy everything from that quantum crystal onto portable storage. Something tells me the council doesn't want us to see what we've found. As the enforcement ships landed, kicking up clouds of dust that obscured the ancient ruins, Elena made a decision that would change her life forever. She slipped the portable storage device Marcus had prepared into her jacket pocket and activated her personal shield generator, masking its energy signature from council scanners. The lead council enforcer, a tall figure in atmospheric armor, approached their excavation site with mechanical precision. Through the helmet's visor, Elena could see the distinctive facial ridges of a Vel Consortium operative, unusual since the Vel rarely involved themselves in archaeological matters. Dr. Vasquez, the enforcer's voice was cold and professional. By order of the Galactic Archaeological Council, this site is now under security containment. All personnel will report to the transport ships for immediate relocation. On what grounds? Elena demanded. This is a legitimate archaeological excavation operating under proper permits. The enforcer moved closer, and Elena could see her own reflection in his dark visor. The grounds are classified. You and your team will comply with relocation orders, or you will be detained under Council Directive 847. Elena's mind raced. Directive 847 dealt with discoveries that threatened galactic security, artifacts, or information that could destabilize the current political order. The fact that they were invoking it over what appeared to be ancient human ruins suggested something far larger than she'd initially realized. What about our research materials? Marcus asked, clutching his equipment pack. All materials will be transferred to council custody for evaluation, the enforcer replied. Personal effects will be returned after security screening. Elena watched as her life's work was loaded into council transport containers. 3 years of careful excavation, thousands of hours of analysis, all disappearing into the council's black site facilities where it would likely never see the light of day again. But the quantum crystal data remained hidden in her pocket, its secrets intact. As the transport ship lifted off from Kepler 442b, Elena stared down at the excavation site, growing smaller below them. The ancient human ship remained partially buried, its secrets now protected by council containment fields. But she knew she'd only scratched the surface of what lay hidden beneath that soil. The holographic star map haunted her thoughts. If it was accurate, then everything the galaxy believed about human history was a lie. Humanity hadn't emerged as a young, ambitious species 3 centuries ago. They'd been one of the galaxy's great powers for millennia before mysteriously disappearing from all records. The question that terrified Elena most wasn't how such advanced human civilization had been forgotten. It was why someone had gone to such extraordinary lengths to erase every trace of their existence from galactic history. And if the Council was willing to invoke Directive 847 to keep this secret buried, what else were they hiding about humanity's true past? As the transport ship jumped to hyperspace, carrying Elena away from the most important discovery of her career, she made a silent vow. She would uncover the truth about humanity's hidden empire, no matter what forces had conspired to bury it. The galaxy had kept this secret for 10,000 years. But secrets this big had a way of demanding to be told, and Elena Vasquez intended to be the one to tell it. 3 weeks after the incident on Kepler 442b, Elena Vasquez sat in the cramped quarters of a civilian transport heading for the Outer Rim worlds. The Council had officially suspended her from all archaeological activities pending a security review, but Elena knew she'd never be reinstated. She'd seen too much, asked too many questions. The quantum crystal data hidden in her encrypted storage device had become her obsession. Every night, she pored over the holographic records, trying to understand the scope of what she'd discovered. The ancient star map wasn't the only information contained in the crystal. There were military records, diplomatic correspondence, even what appeared to be personal logs from human officers serving in something called the Terran hegemony. Elena's destination was Freeport Station, a notorious haven for smugglers, information brokers, and others who preferred to operate outside Council jurisdiction. If anyone could help her understand the implications of her discovery, it would be the underground network of historians and truth-seekers who gathered there. The transport docked at Freeport with a shutter that ran through the ship's hull. Elena gathered her few possessions and made her way through the chaotic corridors of the station. The air was thick with the smell of exotic foods, recycled atmosphere, and the subtle tension that came from too many different species trying to coexist in a confined space. Elena's contact was a former council archivist named Zephyr Khan, a member of the aquatic Narada species who'd been exiled for publishing research that contradicted official galactic histories. They'd arranged to meet at a cantina in the station's lower levels, far from the main thoroughfares where council informants might be watching. The cantina was exactly what Elena expected, dimly lit, filled with smoke from a dozen different worlds, and populated by individuals who clearly valued their privacy. Zephyr sat in a corner booth, his pale blue skin glistening in the artificial lighting. His large, dark eyes followed Elena as she approached, and she could see the wariness that came from years of looking over one's shoulder. Dr. Vasquez. Zephyr's voice carried the distinctive harmonic undertones of his species. I was surprised to receive your message. The word through underground channels is that you've had some trouble with the council. Elena slid into the booth across from him. That's one way to put it. Zephyr, I need to show you something, but not here. Is there somewhere we can speak privately? Zephyr studied her for a long moment, then nodded toward the back of the cantina. I maintain a small archive in the station's old mining section. It should be secure enough for whatever you need to discuss. They made their way through a series of maintenance tunnels that Elena hadn't even known existed. Freeport Station was like an iceberg. Most of its structure remained hidden from casual observation. Zephyr's archive turned out to be a converted storage bay filled with data servers and displays that showed scrolling streams of historical information. This is impressive, Elena said, looking around at the vast collection of data. How did you manage to preserve so much information? When you've spent your career studying the gaps in official galactic history, you learn to keep backup copies of everything, Zephyr replied. The Council has a troubling habit of revising historical records when they become inconvenient. Elena activated her portable storage device and projected the quantum crystal data into the center of the room. The ancient star map appeared in three-dimensional detail, its glowing lines showing trade routes and territorial boundaries from 10 millennia ago. Zephyr's reaction was immediate and visceral. His skin color shifted to a deeper blue, a sign of extreme agitation among his species. Where did you find this? That's classified, Elena said carefully. But I can tell you it came from a site that the Council shut down very quickly once we started uncovering the truth. Zephyr moved closer to the holographic display, his large eyes scanning the territorial markers. Dr. Vasquez, do you understand what you're showing me? This map depicts a galactic configuration that officially never existed. According to Council records, human space expansion began only 300 years ago. But this shows humans controlling territory spanning hundreds of systems 10,000 years ago, Elena said. How is that possible? Zephyr manipulated the display controls, zooming in on specific regions of the map. It's possible because the Council has been lying about galactic history for millennia. Dr. Vasquez, you've stumbled upon evidence of the greatest cover-up in galactic history. Elena felt her pulse quicken. What kind of cover-up? The systematic erasure of the First Terran Empire from all official records, Zephyr explained, his voice dropping to barely above a whisper. What you're looking at is proof that humanity didn't just arrive on the galactic stage 3 centuries ago. You returned to it. The implications hit Elena like a physical blow. Returned? You're saying humanity was already a galactic power and then disappeared? Not disappeared, Zephyr corrected. Erased. There's a difference. Zephyr accessed one of his data servers and projected additional information alongside Elena's star map. For years, I've been collecting evidence of anomalies in galactic history. Unexplained gaps in archaeological records, missing star system surveys, diplomatic archives with redacted sections spanning millennia. The pattern suggested that something significant had been deliberately removed from our historical understanding. Elena studied the comparative data. These territorial boundaries match almost exactly with the regions that show incomplete survey data in current galactic charts. Exactly, Zephyr said. Every system that once belonged to the First Terran Empire has been classified as either uninhabitable, resource-poor, or under long-term study by various council departments. No independent exploration is permitted. Elena pulled up the military records from the quantum crystal. According to these logs, the Terran hegemony maintained peaceful relations with most galactic powers. Their technology was advanced, but they weren't aggressive expansionists. So why would anyone want to erase them from history? Zephyr's skin color shifted again, this time to an almost silver hue that Elena had never seen before. Because, Dr. Vasquez, the First Terran Empire didn't just disappear. They were destroyed in a coordinated attack by a coalition of species that felt threatened by human advancement. The weight of that revelation settled over Elena like a cold shroud. A conspiracy? The largest conspiracy in galactic history, Zephyr confirmed. According to the fragments I've pieced together over the years, humanity's rapid technological advancement 10,000 years ago terrified the established galactic powers. Humans developed quantum manipulation technology centuries ahead of schedule, created artificial intelligence systems that surpassed anything previously known, and established diplomatic relationships that threatened the existing power structure. Elena accessed another section of the crystal data, revealing what appeared to be diplomatic correspondence. These messages suggest that humans were actually working on some kind of unity project, bringing different species together rather than dominating them, which made them even more dangerous to the established order, Zephyr explained. A humanity that conquered through force could be resisted militarily, but a humanity that united species through cooperation and mutual advancement threatened to fundamentally reshape galactic civilization. Elena scrolled through the diplomatic records, seeing evidence of joint research projects, cultural exchanges, and what appeared to be the early stages of a galactic confederation based on equality rather than dominance. So they destroyed it all, Elena whispered. Not just destroyed, erased, Zephyr emphasized. The coalition that attacked the First Terran Empire didn't just want to defeat humanity militarily. They wanted to remove every trace of human achievement from galactic memory. They rewrote history itself. Elena accessed the personal logs from the quantum crystal, reading accounts from human officers who'd served during the Empire's final days. The entries painted a picture of a species that had seen the attack coming but had refused to abandon their principles of cooperation and diplomacy until it was too late. According to these logs, some humans escaped the initial attack, Elena noted. They speak of fallback protocols and preservation initiatives. Zephyr nodded grimly. Small populations of humans survived by retreating to isolated systems and abandoning their advanced technology. They lived in primitive conditions for millennia, slowly rebuilding from almost nothing. Until 300 years ago, when humanity rediscovered space travel, Elena realized. Exactly. But the humanity that emerged wasn't the same as the First Terran Empire. The survivors had lost most of their advanced knowledge. They had to rebuild everything from scratch, which is why their technological development seemed so rapid. They were actually rediscovering technologies their ancestors had mastered 10,000 years earlier. Elena stared at the holographic displays surrounding them, trying to process the magnitude of what she was learning. Everything she believed about human history, about humanity's place in the galaxy, about the nature of galactic civilization itself, was built on a foundation of lies. Why are you telling me this? Elena asked. This information could get us both killed. Zephyr's large eyes met hers directly. Because, Dr. Vasquez, I believe the time has come for the truth to be revealed. The galaxy has lived with this lie for 10,000 years, and the consequences are becoming impossible to ignore. What consequences? Look around at the current state of galactic civilization, Zephyr said, gesturing to his displays. Constant territorial disputes, technological stagnation, species isolation. The old powers that destroyed the First Terran Empire created a galaxy based on competition and mistrust rather than cooperation and advancement. Elena considered this. And you think revealing the truth about humanity's past could change that? I think the galaxy is about to change whether we want it to or not, Zephyr replied ominously. Dr. Vasquez, there's something else you need to know. The quantum crystal you found, it wasn't the only one. Elena's heart stopped. There are others? According to my sources, similar artifacts have been surfacing across the galaxy over the past few months. All of them are being immediately seized by Council forces, but the pattern suggests that someone or something is deliberately revealing these hidden records. Who would do that? Zephyr's skin shifted to a deep purple, a color Elena associated with fear among his species. That's what terrifies me, Dr. Vasquez. If I'm right about what's happening, then the survivors of the First Terran Empire, the ones who've been hiding in the shadows for 10 millennia, are finally ready to reclaim their place in galactic history. Elena felt the universe shifting around her. You're saying there are still descendants of the original Terran Empire out there? I'm saying that the primitive human expansion of the last 3 centuries might not have been as independent as everyone believes. And if the hidden elements of the First Terran Empire are finally revealing themselves, then the galaxy is about to learn that humanity never really went away. They just learned to be more careful about who they trusted. As Elena absorbed this information, her communicator buzzed with an urgent message. The sender was listed as unknown, but when she opened it, her blood ran cold. The message contained a single line of text. Dr. Vasquez, your work on Kepler 442B was most illuminating. We believe it's time we met. TH Command. Zephyr looked at the message over her shoulder, his skin now completely white with shock. TH Command. Terran Hegemony Command. Dr. Vasquez. I think we're about to discover that the past 10,000 years weren't the end of humanity's first empire. They were just a very long intermission. The coordinates in the message led Elena and Zephyr to an abandoned mining facility in the asteroid belt surrounding Freeport Station. Elena's hands trembled as she piloted Zephyr's small shuttle through the debris field, following navigation markers that appeared on their screens without any apparent source. Are you sure about this? Zephyr asked, his skin cycling through nervous color changes. This could be a council trap. Elena checked her scanner readings for the 10th time in as many minutes. The quantum signatures matched the crystal data perfectly. If this is a trap, it's one that required technology the Council doesn't possess. The mining facility loomed ahead of them, its darkened structure looking abandoned and forgotten. But, as they approached, sections of the facility began to light up, revealing hidden docking bays and what appeared to be sophisticated scanning equipment. Dr. Vasquez. A voice came over their communication system, speaking in perfect English with an accent Elena didn't recognize. Please proceed to docking bay 7. You are expected. Elena guided the shuttle into the designated bay, noting that the facility's artificial gravity and atmosphere were perfectly calibrated for human comfort. As the bay doors closed behind them, she saw figures in environmental suits waiting for their arrival. Well, Elena said quietly, I guess we're about to get some answers. They disembarked to find 3 humans waiting for them. But these weren't like any humans Elena had ever encountered. Their bearing was different, more confident, and purposeful. Their equipment was clearly advanced beyond current human technology, and their eyes held a depth of knowledge that suggested lifetimes of experience. The leader, a woman who appeared to be in her 50s with silver-streaked hair, stepped forward. Dr. Vasquez, I am Commander Sarah Chun. Welcome to Station Meridian, one of the last operational facilities of the Terran hegemony. Elena's heart pounded. The Terran hegemony still exists. In a much reduced form, Commander Chun replied. We've spent the last 10,000 years in hiding, maintaining our technology and our knowledge while the galaxy forgot we ever existed. Zephyr's translator worked to convert his harmonic speech patterns. Forgive my confusion, but current human populations show no evidence of technology this advanced. Commander Chen nodded toward Zephyr with obvious respect. Mr. Khan, your research into historical anomalies has not gone unnoticed. You've come closer to the truth than any non-human in millennia. Elena looked around the sophisticated facility surrounding them. How many of you are there? Fewer than we'd like, more than our enemies suspect. Chen replied diplomatically. The Great Purge of 8,847 standard years ago nearly succeeded in wiping us out completely. Only a few 100,000 humans survived the initial attacks by retreating to hidden installations like this one. Chun led them through corridors lined with displays showing star charts and tactical information. Elena recognized some of the systems from the quantum crystal data, but many others were completely unknown to her. The humans who eventually returned to Earth and began the recent expansion, they were descendants of survivors? Elena asked. Some of them, Chun confirmed. We maintained secret contact with survivor populations throughout the galaxy, providing subtle guidance when necessary. But we were careful never to reveal our continued existence. They entered what appeared to be a vast command center, its walls lined with holographic displays showing real-time information from across the galaxy. Elena's breath caught as she realized she was looking at a military and intelligence network that spanned hundreds of star systems. This is incredible, Elena whispered. You've been watching everything. Watching, learning, and preparing, said another voice. Elena turned to see an elderly human man approaching, his weathered face marked by what she could only describe as profound sadness. Dr. Vasquez, this is Admiral Marcus Rivera, one of our senior commanders, Chen said. Admiral Rivera studied Elena with eyes that seemed to hold the weight of centuries. Dr. Vasquez, your discovery on Kepler 442b forced our hand. We'd planned to remain hidden for several more decades, but The Council's reaction to your findings made it clear that the time for secrecy is ending. Elena felt the pieces of an enormous puzzle clicking together in her mind. You've been testing them. The quantum crystals that have been appearing across the galaxy. You've been deliberately revealing evidence of the First Terran Empire. Correct, Rivera confirmed. We needed to gauge the current galactic power's response to evidence of our past existence. Their reaction has been illuminating. Zephyr moved closer to one of the tactical displays. The species that formed the coalition against the First Terran Empire, they're still in power, aren't they? Commander Chin's expression darkened. The Vel Consortium, the Antari Empire, the Keth Dominion, they've all maintained their positions as galactic powers for the past 10,000 years. And they've built their current civilizations on the foundation of our stolen technology. Elena's mind reeled. Stolen technology? The advanced quantum manipulation systems, the artificial intelligence protocols, the faster-than-light communication networks that form the backbone of current galactic civilization, Rivera explained. All of it was originally developed by the First Terran Empire. Elena stared at the displays around her, seeing the scope of human achievement that had been hidden for millennia. Why reveal yourselves now? Why break 10,000 years of secrecy? Rivera and Chun exchanged a look that spoke of long discussions and difficult decisions. Because, Dr. Vasquez, the galaxy is facing a crisis that threatens all sentient life, and the powers responsible for our erasure are incapable of dealing with it. A new holographic display activated, showing what appeared to be deep space sensor readings. Elena studied the data, noting energy signatures unlike anything in known galactic databases. What am I looking at? She asked. Evidence of an approaching threat that makes the politics of the inner galaxy irrelevant, Rivera said grimly. Long-range sensors have detected artificial structures approaching from outside our galaxy. Based on their configuration and energy output, we estimate they'll reach the outer rim territories within 18 months. Elena felt cold dread settling in her stomach. An invasion? Unknown, Chen replied. But the energy signatures suggest technology that surpasses anything in our current galactic civilization, including our own. Zephyr's skin had turned almost white. How long have you known about this? We detected the first signs 8 months ago, Rivera said. Our deep space monitoring networks picked up gravitational anomalies that suggested massive artificial structures entering our galactic region. Elena studied the sensor data more carefully. This is why you're revealing yourselves. You need the galaxy's help to face this threat. We need the galaxy to remember what it was capable of when species worked together instead of maintaining the artificial divisions created by our enemies, Chen corrected. Rivera activated another display showing political and military assessments of current galactic powers. The Vel Consortium is technologically stagnant, more concerned with maintaining trade monopolies than advancing defensive capabilities. The Antari Empire has focused on territorial expansion rather than technological development. The Keth Dominion has become isolationist and suspicious of other species. Elena began to understand the scope of what she was witnessing. The coalition that destroyed the First Terran Empire created a galaxy that's unprepared for external threats. Exactly, Chen confirmed. By destroying human unifying influence and stealing our technology without understanding its principles, they created a galactic civilization built on competition rather than cooperation. Now that weakness may doom us all. Elena looked around at the sophisticated technology surrounding them. What do you propose to do about it? First, we reveal the truth about galactic history, Rivera said. The species of the galaxy need to understand what they lost when the First Terran Empire was destroyed. And second, Zephyr asked. Chen's expression was grim, but determined. We convince them to work together to face this external threat, whether they want to or not. Elena felt the weight of galactic history settling on her shoulders. You want me to help you expose the conspiracy? Dr. Vasquez, you're already part of this whether you realize it or not, Rivera said. The Council will never allow you to return to your previous life after what you discovered. Your choice now is between helping us reveal the truth or spending the rest of your life in a Council detention facility. Elena considered her options, knowing that Rivera was right. The moment she'd uncovered that quantum crystal, her old life had ended. What would you need me to do? Use your credentials and reputation to authenticate the evidence we're about to release, Chen explained. When we reveal the quantum crystal data and the historical records we've preserved, the galaxy will need trusted voices to confirm their legitimacy. Elena thought about the implications. When you say reveal, how exactly do you plan to disseminate this information? Rivera smiled for the first time since their conversation began, and Elena caught a glimpse of the confidence that had once made humanity a galactic power. Dr. Vasquez, we've had 10,000 years to prepare for this moment. Every major communication network in the galaxy has hidden access points that we've carefully maintained. Chen continued the explanation. When we activate the Revelation Protocol, every inhabited world in galactic civilization will simultaneously receive complete historical records of the First Terran Empire, evidence of the conspiracy that destroyed it, and proof that the current galactic powers built their civilizations on stolen human technology. Elena's head spun with the scope of what they were proposing. That will cause complete chaos. Chaos that will hopefully lead to cooperation when species realize they need to work together to face the approaching threat, Rivera said. Zephyr had been quietly studying the tactical displays. Commander, what about retaliation from the Council and the old coalition powers? They won't simply accept exposure. Chen's expression hardened. We've spent 10 millennia preparing for that as well. The galaxy is about to discover that the humans they dismissed as primitive newcomers have been watching, learning, and preparing for this day. Elena made her decision. What do you need me to do? Rivera activated a new display showing communication networks spanning the galaxy. Help us make sure that when the truth is revealed, it comes with the credibility and authentication that only a respected xenoarchaeologist can provide. As Elena studied the scope of the operation they were proposing, she realized that she wasn't just witnessing the return of humanity's hidden empire. She was about to become part of the moment when 10,000 years of lies finally came to an end. The galaxy had spent millennia believing that humanity was young and insignificant. They were about to learn that humanity had never left the galactic stage. They'd just been waiting for the right moment to remind everyone who they really were. The revelation began at 1,200 hours Galactic Standard Time. Elena sat in the command center of Station Meridian, watching as 10,000 years of lies unraveled across 1,000 worlds simultaneously. Every major communication network in the galaxy, from the official council channels to underground information brokers, suddenly carried the same unprecedented transmission. Citizens of the galaxy, Admiral Rivera's voice carried across billions of receivers as his image appeared on screens throughout civilized space. Today you will learn the truth about a conspiracy that has shaped your reality for 10 millennia. Elena watched the tactical displays as the transmission reached different sectors. On Vel Prime, the consortium's capital world, emergency sessions were being called as government officials struggled to understand how their secured networks had been compromised. In Antari space, military commanders stared in disbelief as their most classified databases acknowledged the authenticity of the incoming data. The evidence came in waves. First, the quantum crystal records that Elena had discovered, now verified by the preserved archives of the hidden Terran hegemony installations. Then came the diplomatic correspondence, showing the coalition that had plotted humanity's destruction. Finally, the technological analyses proving that the fundamental systems underlying galactic civilization had all originated from human research. Dr. Vasquez, Commander Chen said from her position at the communications console, your authentication codes are being accepted across all major academic networks. The Archaeological Council's own verification systems are confirming the legitimacy of the evidence. Elena watched the data streams flowing across the displays, knowing that her reputation was giving credibility to revelations that would otherwise be dismissed as elaborate hoaxes. What's the response from the Council? Exactly what we expected, Rivera replied, indicating a series of tactical readouts. Emergency containment protocols are being activated. Council enforcement fleets are mobilizing. They're trying to shut down the information flow. But it was too late. The revelation protocols that the hidden Terran hegemony had spent millennia preparing were too sophisticated and too widespread to be stopped. Every time Council forces shut down one transmission node, 10 more activated to take its place. Elena's communicator buzzed with an incoming message from her former supervisor at the Archaeological Council. Director Kaler 9's image appeared, his features twisted with desperation. Dr. Vasquez, if you're receiving this transmission, you need to understand the gravity of what you've done. The information you're helping to disseminate threatens the stability of galactic civilization itself. Elena looked at Rivera, who nodded for her to respond. Director, Elena said calmly, the only thing threatening galactic stability is 10,000 years of lies. The galaxy deserves to know the truth about its history. You don't understand. Kaler 9's voice carried a note of panic that Elena had never heard before. The erasure of the First Terran Empire wasn't a conspiracy, it was a necessity. Humanity's advancement threatened the natural order of galactic development. Rivera moved closer to Elena's communicator. Director Kaler 9, this is Admiral Marcus Rivera of the Terran hegemony. Perhaps it's time we discuss the natural order you speak of. The silence that followed was profound. Elena could see the shock on Kaler 9's face as he realized he was speaking with representatives of a civilization that was supposed to have been extinct for 10 millennia. That's impossible, Kaler 9 whispered. The Terran hegemony was destroyed. We have documentation. You have documentation of your ancestors' attempt to commit genocide, Rivera corrected coldly. An attempt that failed. Elena watched as Rivera activated another display, showing real-time tactical information from across the galaxy. Director, I suggest you focus your attention on more pressing matters. Check your long-range sensors. Elena saw Kaler 9's expression change as he apparently accessed sensor data from Council monitoring stations. What are those energy signatures? The external threat I mentioned in our historical records, Rivera explained. The approaching artificial structures that your ancestors' short-sighted conspiracy has left the galaxy unprepared to face. Elena studied the tactical displays showing the incoming threat. The structures were massive, each one larger than most space stations, moving with purpose and coordination that suggested unified command. How long do we have? Kaler 9 asked, his earlier panic replaced by professional concern. 14 months until they reached the Outer Rim territories, Commander Chen reported. Less than 2 years until they could penetrate to the galactic core. Elena watched as the revelation continued to spread across galactic communication networks. On hundreds of worlds, populations were learning that their understanding of history had been fundamentally wrong. The reactions varied dramatically. Some species expressed outrage at the deception. Others showed fear about the implications. Admiral Zephyr spoke up from his position at the analysis station. I'm monitoring discussions across multiple species diplomatic channels. The Nareda Council is demanding immediate answers from the Archaeological Council. The Thracian Assembly is calling for a complete review of galactic historical records. Rivera nodded. And the coalition powers? Elena studied the intelligence feeds showing government and military responses from the 3 species most responsible for humanity's erasure. The Vel Consortium is denying everything, claiming the evidence is fabricated. The Antari Empire is preparing military responses, apparently believing this is some kind of human attack on their territories. And the Keth Dominion? Chen asked. Elena checked another set of data streams. Radio silence. They've completely shut down external communications. Rivera considered this information. The Keth always were the most paranoid of our former enemies. Their isolation might actually work in our favor. Elena's communicator buzzed again, this time with an incoming transmission from an unexpected source. The image that appeared showed a being she recognized as Ambassador Thrain of the Nareda Diplomatic Corps, one of the galaxy's most respected negotiators. Dr. Vasquez. Ambassador Thrain's harmonic voice carried notes of urgency. I'm speaking to you as a representative of species that had no involvement in the ancient conspiracy you've revealed. We need to discuss the current crisis. Elena looked to Rivera, who indicated she should respond. Ambassador Thrain, I'm listening. Dr. Vasquez, regardless of what happened 10,000 years ago, we're now facing a potential external invasion that threatens all galactic life. The species of the Inner Rim are requesting an emergency summit to address both the historical revelations and the approaching threat. Rivera stepped into the communication field. Ambassador, this is Admiral Rivera. We appreciate your species' request for dialogue. Thrain's reaction was controlled but clearly shocked. "Admiral, if you represent the surviving elements of the First Terran Empire, then you possess military and technological capabilities that could be crucial in defending against this external threat." Elena watched as Rivera considered the proposal. The Terran hegemony had maintained hidden installations and technologies for 10 millennia, but they had never intended to face a galactic crisis alone. "Ambassador," Rivera said carefully, "we're willing to discuss cooperation. But any alliance must be based on truth rather than the lies that have governed galactic politics for the past 10,000 years." Elena studied the tactical displays showing the continuing spread of the revelation across galactic networks. "Admiral, the Outer Rim territories are beginning to mobilize. Some species are requesting immediate assistance in preparing defenses." Rivera activated a new set of displays showing the hidden Terran hegemony's current military capabilities. Elena was amazed by what she saw: defense networks spanning dozens of star systems, fleets of vessels using technology decades ahead of current galactic standards, and coordination systems that could manage military operations on a galactic scale. "Dr. Vasquez," Chen said quietly, "you need to understand what you're witnessing. The Terran hegemony never stopped preparing for the day we would need to defend the galaxy again." Elena looked around at the sophisticated technology surrounding them, finally understanding the full scope of humanity's hidden presence. "You've been protecting the galaxy all along, haven't you?" "Protecting what we could," Rivera confirmed. "There have been dozens of smaller external threats over the millennia: probe ships, raiding fleets, reconnaissance missions from outside our galaxy. They were all dealt with quietly by Terran hegemony forces." Elena felt the implications settling over her. "The galaxy never knew how many times you'd saved them." "We weren't doing it for recognition," Rivera said. "We were doing it because it was necessary." Ambassador Thrane's voice interrupted their conversation. "Admiral, Dr. Vasquez, time may be short. The approaching structures have changed course slightly. They appear to be accelerating toward inhabited systems rather than simply passing through our galaxy." Elena checked the long-range sensor data, confirming Thrane's observation. "The threat assessment has changed. They're definitely targeting our civilization." Rivera's expression hardened with determination that reminded Elena why humanity had once been a galactic power. "Then, it's time for the galaxy to remember what we accomplished when species worked together instead of against each other." Elena watched as Rivera began activating hidden Terran hegemony assets across the galaxy. On the tactical displays, she could see defense networks coming online, fleets emerging from concealment, and communication systems establishing contact with species that had believed humanity was too primitive to be a serious military ally. "Admiral," Elena said, "what are you planning?" Rivera turned to face her, his eyes holding the weight of 10,000 years of preparation for this moment. "Dr. Vasquez, we're going to do what the First Terran Empire should have done when faced with conspiracy and betrayal. We're going to unite this galaxy whether the old powers want unity or not. And we're going to remind the universe that humanity doesn't surrender easily." Elena realized she was witnessing more than the revelation of hidden history. She was witnessing the return of humanity to its position as a galactic power, and this time, they would not be caught unprepared by betrayal or external threats. The galaxy had spent 10,000 years learning to live without human leadership. Now it was about to remember why it had needed that leadership in the first place. 6 months later, Elena stood on the observation deck of the Terran hegemony flagship Unity's return, watching as the largest fleet in galactic history prepared for what might be civilization's final battle. The external invaders, who had identified themselves only as the hierarchy, had established beachheads in 3 outer rim systems and were systematically destroying everything in their path. The transformation of galactic politics had been unprecedented. The revelation of humanity's hidden history had triggered a cascade of political realignments that no one could have predicted. The Vel Consortium had fractured as member species learned their government had built its power on stolen human technology. The Antari Empire faced internal rebellions as subject worlds demanded independence. The Keth Dominion remained in isolation, neither helping nor hindering the galaxy's defensive preparations. But the crisis had also created something remarkable: the first truly cooperative galactic alliance in 10,000 years. Dr. Vasquez, Admiral Rivera approached from the command center, his uniform bearing the insignia of the newly formed Galactic Defense Coalition. The final fleet elements have arrived. We're ready to begin the operation. Elena studied the tactical display showing over 15,000 ships from 43 different species. The fleet represented the largest military cooperation in galactic history, made possible by the shared technology and coordination protocols that the Terran hegemony had preserved from the First Empire. Any word from the diplomatic mission to the hierarchy? Elena asked. Rivera's expression was grim. Ambassador Thrane's team returned this morning. The hierarchy's response was unambiguous. Elena felt her heart sink. They refused negotiations? They don't consider us sentient enough for negotiations, Rivera explained. According to their worldview, we're simply biological substrate that happens to have developed rudimentary technology. Elena looked out at the massive fleet surrounding them, seeing ships from species that had been enemies for millennia now working together with unprecedented coordination. How can they dismiss this? We've achieved galactic unity in 6 months. Because to them, we're still children playing with toys they don't recognize as dangerous, Commander Chen said, joining their conversation. The hierarchy's technology is approximately 50,000 years more advanced than current galactic standards. Elena studied the latest intelligence reports on hierarchy forces. Their ships were biological rather than mechanical, capable of self-repair and adaptation in ways that challenged fundamental assumptions about military technology. But we have advantages they don't expect, Rivera said, activating a new display showing the hidden Terran hegemony installations that had been revealed across the galaxy. They've studied current galactic military capabilities, but they have no knowledge of the technological infrastructure we've maintained in secret. Elena watched as the fleet began moving toward the outer rim, where hierarchy forces were advancing through the Kepler sector. Ironically, the same region where her discovery had started this entire chain of events. Admiral Zephyr approached from the intelligence station, his skin displaying the complex color patterns that indicated intensive data processing. Final analysis of hierarchy technology suggests they're using quantum manipulation principles similar to our own, but applied in ways we've never considered. Rivera studied Zephyr's report. Recommendations? If we can disrupt their quantum coherence patterns, their biological ships lose their adaptive capabilities, Zephyr explained. But it would require coordinating quantum disruption fields across multiple star systems simultaneously. Elena understood the implications. The kind of coordination that only the Terran hegemony's preserved command networks could manage. Exactly, Rivera confirmed. This is why we maintained those systems for 10,000 years. We always knew that someday, the galaxy would face a threat that required the kind of unified response that only human organizational principles could provide. Elena watched as the fleet approached the outer rim systems where the hierarchy had established their invasion bases. The enemy forces were clearly visible on long-range sensors, vast biological constructs that moved with predatory grace through space, consuming everything in their path to fuel further expansion. Dr. Vasquez, Admiral Rivera said quietly, I want you to understand what you started with your discovery on Kepler 442b. You didn't just uncover hidden history. You gave the galaxy its only chance of survival. Elena considered the journey that had brought her to this moment. The quantum crystal data, the hidden installations, even the approaching invasion. It was all connected, wasn't it? The first Terran Empire's deep space monitoring networks detected signs of the hierarchy 50,000 years ago, Rivera explained. Everything we did, our technological advancement, our diplomatic initiatives, our preparation for unity, was ultimately about preparing for this threat. Elena felt the weight of galactic history settling around her. That's why the coalition powers were so threatened by human advancement. You weren't just building an empire, you were building a defense network. And when they destroyed that network, they left the galaxy vulnerable to the very threat we were trying to prepare for, Rivera said. Elena watched the tactical displays as the fleet entered the outer rim systems. The hierarchy forces were immediately aware of their presence, their biological ships beginning to adapt and respond to the incoming threat. All units, Rivera's voice carried across the fleet communication network. Remember that we're not fighting for territory or resources. We're fighting for the right of biological intelligence to exist in this galaxy." The battle began with a coordinated quantum disruption pulse that struck hierarchy forces across 3-star systems simultaneously. Elena watched in amazement as the enemy's adaptive biological ships suddenly became vulnerable to conventional weapons. But the hierarchy adapted quickly. Within minutes, their ships had developed countermeasures to the quantum disruption, and they began responding with weapons that defied current understanding of physics. "They're learning faster than our models predicted," Commander Chen reported from the tactical station. Elena studied the battle displays, seeing galactic forces taking heavy casualties despite their initial advantage. "We need something they can't adapt to." Rivera activated another display showing the locations of hidden Terran hegemony installations throughout the galaxy. "Dr. Vasquez, there's one more secret we've preserved from the First Empire. Something we've never revealed, even to ourselves." Elena followed Rivera to a secured section of the command center, where an interface unlike anything she'd seen before was hidden behind layers of security protocols. "What is it?" Elena asked. "The Consciousness Protocol," Rivera explained quietly. "The First Terran Empire's ultimate achievement. A network that could link the minds of every sentient being in the galaxy into a unified consciousness capable of coordinating actions on a scale that no biological intelligence could achieve alone." Elena stared at the interface, understanding the implications. "You preserved a form of collective consciousness." "We preserved the capability," Rivera corrected. "But using it requires the voluntary participation of every sentient species in the galaxy. It can't be forced." Elena watched the battle displays as galactic forces continued to take casualties against an enemy that adapted to every strategy they employed. "And if species refuse to participate, then the hierarchy will systematically eliminate biological intelligence from our galaxy and eventually expand to consume others," Rivera said simply. Elena considered the choice before them. The Consciousness Protocol represented everything that the coalition powers had feared about human advancement: the potential to unite all galactic species under a single unified will. But it also represented the only hope for survival against a threat that conventional military force couldn't defeat. "How do we implement it?" Elena asked. Rivera indicated the interface. "The decision has to be made by representatives of every major species simultaneously. And, Dr. Vasquez, as the person whose discovery started this chain of events, your voice carries weight that could influence the final choice." Elena looked out at the ongoing battle, seeing ships from dozens of species fighting and dying together against an enemy that viewed them as nothing more than biological resources to be harvested. Elena activated her communication link to the Galactic Coalition. "This is Dr. Elena Vasquez, speaking to all species participating in the current defense of our galaxy. You need to understand that we're facing a choice that will determine not just whether we survive, but what we become." Across the Fleet Communication Network, representatives from 43 species listened as Elena explained the Consciousness Protocol. The debate that followed was intense, with some species expressing fear about losing their individual identity, while others argued that individual identity was meaningless if the hierarchy succeeded in destroying all biological life. The First Terran Empire spent millennia developing this technology precisely because they understood that some threats could only be faced through unity, Elena explained. But they never used it because they respected each species' right to choose their own destiny. Ambassador Thrane's voice carried across the network. "Dr. Vasquez, if we implement this protocol, what guarantee do we have that humanity won't use it to dominate other species the way the hierarchy seeks to dominate us?" Elena looked at Admiral Rivera, who nodded for her to answer honestly. "You have no guarantee except our history," Elena said. "For 10,000 years, the surviving elements of the Terran hegemony could have revealed themselves and reclaimed their position as a galactic power. Instead, they chose to protect the galaxy in secret, asking for nothing in return." Elena watched the tactical displays as the hierarchy forces continued to advance despite galactic resistance. But, ultimately, this isn't about trusting humanity. It's about choosing between cooperation and extinction. The vote, when it came, was closer than Elena had hoped, but decisive enough to proceed. 37 species agreed to implement the consciousness protocol, while 6 abstained and 3 requested more time to consider. Elena watched as Rivera activated the interface, sending activation signals to hidden Terran hegemony installations across the galaxy. The technology that had remained dormant for 10 millennia began to awaken, creating quantum links between the minds of billions of sentient beings. The sensation was unlike anything Elena had ever experienced. Suddenly, she could feel the thoughts and perceptions of species across the galaxy, the mathematical precision of Vel engineers, the emotional depth of Antari artists, the fluid logic of Nareda philosophers. But, rather than losing her individual identity, she found it enhanced by connection to the vast diversity of galactic consciousness. The effect on the battle was immediate and profound. Galactic forces began moving with perfect coordination, their strategies adapting faster than the hierarchy could respond. Ships from different species worked together with the precision of a single organism, while maintaining their unique cultural and technological approaches. But the most remarkable change was in how they understood their enemy. Through the expanded consciousness, Elena could perceive the hierarchy not as malevolent invaders, but as a species so ancient and isolated that they had forgotten the value of diversity and cooperation. The battle that followed wasn't just a military victory. It was a demonstration of what galactic civilization could achieve when species chose cooperation over competition. The hierarchy forces, adapted to fighting primitive biological intelligence, were completely unprepared for the unified response of 43 species thinking and acting as one while maintaining their individual strengths. When the last hierarchy ship retreated beyond the galactic rim, Elena stood on the observation deck of Unity's return, feeling the consciousness network gradually reduce to normal levels while maintaining permanent connections that would ensure such cooperation remained possible. Dr. Vasquez, Admiral Rivera joined her at the viewport. Congratulations. You've helped the galaxy achieve what the First Terran Empire could only dream of, true unity without the loss of diversity. Elena looked out at the fleet of ships from dozens of species, now linked by bonds of shared experience and mutual understanding that would reshape galactic civilization forever. What happens now? Elena asked. Now we begin the real work, Rivera replied. Building a galactic civilization based on cooperation rather than competition, unity rather than isolation, and the understanding that our diversity is our greatest strength. Elena realized that her discovery of ancient quantum crystals on a forgotten world had done more than reveal hidden history. It had given the galaxy the opportunity to fulfill humanity's original vision of what galactic civilization could become. The First Terran Empire had been destroyed 10,000 years ago, but its dream of unity and cooperation had finally been achieved. And this time, no conspiracy would be strong enough to destroy what all species had chosen to build together.